Greetings, Montana. Chris Hislop from the Montana World Affairs Council, and this is another EconoQuest event. EconoQuest is our international economics literacy program for Montana high schoolers all across this state. Students are joining our online learning platform. They're coming in on virtual distinguished speaker events like this one today, and joining us in person Monday and Tuesday in Bozeman for our EconoQuest conference. I'd like to thank our very generous sponsors at Bridger Aerospace and the City of Bozeman. They're helping us bring this entire program free of charge to all classrooms across Montana. And of course, special thanks to our program partners at Gallatin College, the Montana Photonics Industry Alliance, the Montana Department of Commerce, and Inspired Classroom. They're helping us every day bring this all across the big sky. Now let me introduce our very distinguished guest today. Ambassador Jaroslav Olša is the Consul General of the Czech Republic in Los Angeles. He's served as ambassador to the Philippines and Republic of Korea. Since joining the diplomatic service in 1992, he's held several other positions in the Czech Republic, as well as Zimbabwe, Liberia, and Papua New Guinea. He's the author of books and articles on history, culture, and literature of Asia and Africa and historical relations of the non-European countries with Czech lands. He's also written science fiction and edited dozens of anthologies of Czech and international science fiction. Ambassador Olša, welcome to the program. How are you?
Good morning from LA.
It's great to have you on, Ambassador. Thank you so much for joining us. As I said, our Montana students are studying the international economy, how it connects with the United States, how it connects with Montana and their very own communities. A focus of their studies this year is the European Union. I wonder if you could please situate the European Union economy within the global economy.
Thank you very much for this invitation. I would like to speak about European Union economy and also Europe and the world. But it's very difficult to not to connect the economy with the politics. For the interconnected world, the COVID pandemic and most recently Russian aggression of Ukraine is something which is disrupting world economy. That means we speak first about the economy which was before all these disruptive events, and we can look onto a situation which might be today and might be in future. European Union is one of the biggest trade and industry partners of all over the world. That means China and the United States are the biggest trade partners of the European bloc, which is 27 countries of these days. China is 16% of our overall trade and the United States are 15%, but it's virtually changing all the time. That means I'm very sure with closeness of China these days because of COVID, zero tolerance, maybe United States once more will become the largest trade partner of the European Union. But what is important also that European Union is very much connected to the outside world. It's most visible, most probably not on the trade, but also on foreign direct investment. Very often we speak that European Union is the biggest investor in the world, and it's true because European Union countries are investing 45% of all the foreign direct investments all around the world. In comparison with the United States, it's only 28%. That means it's quite a significant difference. And the same is with the inward. There is 34% of all the foreign direct investments in the world which are going to the European Union countries. And it's practically 30%, slightly less, which is going to the United States. It's quite important that really European Union and all the member states, including the Czech Republic, we are very much connected to the world. And the disruption which started with COVID and all the problems created by the supply chains was really, really very problematic for everybody. And we found that the products which are being finalized in, say, Finland, receive a plenty of components coming from China, but also from Vietnam, United States, Mexico, you name it. It's extremely difficult. I will speak about something which every student knows. It's a Lego. You know, when you build the bricks, you would say it's a Danish company. Yes, of course, it is a Danish company. But when you look on the box, you will see a small printed mention, produced in Mexico, Denmark, Hungary, and the Czech Republic. That means whenever you build any Lego, you see that some components are coming from Denmark, some from Mexico, some from Hungary. They are coming to the small city of Kladno, next to the Czech capital Prague, where it is assembled, packed, and sent to the world. What does it mean? It can happen that where there is a problem and there is a supply chain disrupted between Mexico and Europe, which was happening, Lego cannot operate because one type of bricks is being produced in Mexico. That means we see how the interconnection of a European Union economy to the world is very deep and important.
Thank you very much for that, Ambassador. It's fascinating what you say about Legos, because of course, everybody in the world knows Legos all across Montana, from Columbia Falls to Wolf Point to Hamilton and Darby. We all use Legos, and it's an extraordinary example of the interconnectedness of our countries and of our economies. I wonder if you might also say a few words about, you made mention about the trade that is internal to the European Union. Could you give our students a little bit of a sense of it? Is that different from the more globalized trade? Is it similar? If so, in what ways?
We must look that European Union, as I said, is a bloc of 27 countries which have a totally different, in many ways, historical experiences, and historical experience influence also their economic history. That means we see the countries like Spain, which was the very important global power for last 400, 500 years. And in the same moment, you have a Czech Republic, which is a landlocked country, never have any really real big connection to the outside of Europe world as a big power. That means these economies were created on a different basis. For example, the Czech Republic is a very industrial country with a big industrial production. For us, trade, and especially foreign trade, is important for survival. Our ratio of importance of foreign trade is significantly higher than some other countries like Spain, which has a huge internal market. What was important in a European Union situation when it started enlarging in the 1990s was to create one single market. And this is one of the most important parts. We don't have a 27 small and medium-sized internal market, but now we have a market of hundreds of millions of people. It's very true, like the United States. That means every product which is being produced in Finland can be freely transferred, sold in Cyprus. Any product from Portugal can easily go to Estonia to look on the very different parts of the world. That means that's important, and it opened the great chances for all the businesses in European Union member states to start really becoming more and more global. What was important was really, of course, Brexit, and leaving of the United Kingdom from the bloc was very, very disruptive, of course, for both United Kingdom and the European Union. And we saw all these problems which was caused by creating a new barriers, new controls on the borders, how it really disrupted the economy. But we see that there is an interest on both sides, like the Britain and European Union, to find the ways how not to stop really a very useful exchange of goods, services, investments between United Kingdom and European Union. And we see it's working, because still nowadays, United Kingdom is the third biggest trade partner of the European Union outside of the bloc. As I said, the first is China and the United States, virtually 16-15%, and United Kingdom is 12% of our foreign trade. That means disruption was there, but it's overcome. It was overcome.
That really gives our students a good sense of the scope and the size of the European Union and its market. Another thing that the students have been studying on the economic side is competitive advantage. Ambassador, could you speak a little bit about the European Union bloc's competitive advantage in the global market?
I think one of the biggest competitive advantage of our market is really the big number of high skilled people in European Union. That means there is so many innovation centers, not only industrial product, but also creative centers, research centers. That means we are very much able to do plenty of things which are possible in all over the world. You can find that European Union is practically producing virtually everything in the world. That means technically we could close ourselves and we could do everything we can. But of course, in many ways, it's not the same. And there is a lot of cooperation of the European Union with the outside world. That's why European Union signed many agreements of free trade agreements with important countries in the world. When I was ambassador to South Korea 15 years ago, that was the final years of preparation of a free trade agreement between the European Union and the Republic of Korea. It was a difficult discussion. It took years, but nowadays a market between Korea, an important industrial country, and the European Union is almost open without any customs taxes and custom things. And we see how important it is. That means this is one of the things.
Ambassador, you mentioned in your opening remarks the importance of the connection with politics and economics. And of course, we are all watching very closely the war in Ukraine. Could you share with us your views on the impact that that war is having both on the EU in general and European society and the economy?
Frankly, there was a mistake of many Europeans, not only politicians, but even people thinking that being connected to Russia as much as possible, creating as many links to Russia as possible, will really change Russia and bring her back and closer to Europe. It was a big mistake. When we look on the history, Russia was all the time in Europe, but also of outside Europe. When we look on the 19th century, you would see that majority of the 19th century, the people, products, and even investment could freely travel inside Europe, except of two places. It was the Ottoman Empire, which is now Turkey, and it was Russia. Even the 19th century said Russia is in Europe, but not exactly. And we really hoped in last 30 years after the fall of a Iron Curtain and the end of the communist bloc, that involvement with Russia will help both Europe and Russia to be closer. Oh, that was the mistake. We found it nowadays. And now really Europe will pay some kind of a price for that naivete maybe, or maybe over optimism, because our connection to oil and gas, and especially gas from Russia, is so important that we will have a big problem in Europe now to overcome it. We see that the flow of gas is smaller and smaller, and we said, and European Union said, that we want to cut off the connections with Russian gas in a couple of years. But this is really important. We will see how much the problem will cause for the companies, for the industry, because all this is based on the oil and gas coming from Russia. But not only, and that's an important thing, Europe was never 100% dependent on Russian supply. It is also connected with the Middle East, North Africa, and also with the United States. And we are very happy that we can now change that, and we can help our economy and people to survive that very difficult war. And last but not least, saying that it's unprecedented attack. This is what Russia did is something we could not imagine, and it's beyond something which happening. We are really in a situation which has never been in Europe since the World War II, when the major country attacked the other country. It is shocking, it is unprecedented, and it is absolutely unacceptable. And European politicians, including our politicians, say no. And we really want to stop Russian invasion.
Ambassador, if I could pick up on the question of energy and oil and gas supplies. It's affecting the global market, of course, but we see a very specific and acute impact in Europe on one hand. On the other hand, we're also reading that it is sparking not a renewed, but a continued move to renewable energy sources across Europe. Um, could you comment on that? How is that going now in Europe, trying to move away from a dependency on fossil fuels?
The whole problem is that there are two problems. The first is the fossil fuels, and everybody agrees that one of the best ways is really to get rid of the fossil fuels use in the energy production as soon as possible. For example, the Czech Republic or former Czechoslovakia was very much dependent on coal and during the communist times, and we already stopped using coal almost, not 100%, but almost, and we limited really the creation of energy from coal in last years. In the same moment, there is that anti-nuclear lobby, which is saying that in a way nuclear energy is in a different way dangerous, unclean. We, as the Czech Republic, think that one of the chance how to solve the problem is really nuclear energy. We produce a lot of our energy supply from nuclear power plants. We do have 3 of them. We are planning enlargement of the number of our nuclear reactors. That means we feel that this is one of the ways. And of course, we understand that there are the other chances how to create the clean energy. Czech Republic is one of the countries which is maximum using its rivers and dams which were built in last 60, 70 years for creating the hydro energy. I think Montana is one of the places where the hydro energy can be also important. That means we do our best. But for the countries which are in the middle of Europe, it's very difficult to use, for example, the wind energy. There is not much chance to do it. We are also north of the Alps. That means using the solar energy is, of course, more problematic than in Spain or southern Italy. That means we feel that we should return back to the nuclear in a way which will be one of the solutions of the clean energy creation. And we see it on Germany. Germany, a couple of years ago, said that they will close all their nuclear power plants. And you see the acute crisis with the energies caused that the new German chancellor said very clearly that their atomic power plants will not stop as planned, but they will be producing for a couple of more years until we see the situation. It was a very wise decision, because the only way how to solve the situation acutely is really with the nuclear energy as a stable source.
Ambassador, here in Montana, we know that we have a lot of ties with Europe, particularly through immigration. Now, you had mentioned the publication of a book. I wonder if you could share that, because I think our teachers and students would be very interested.
No, thank you very much. It came to my mind in a very last moment. Our consulate sponsored the publication of a small 100 pages long book by a Czech historian, Martin Nekola, which is dealing with the history of Czechs in the US Northwest. And you see one of the 4 chapters is about Montana. Montana was never really a big place for the Czech immigration. The biggest Czech immigration was going to places like Chicago, of course, East Coast, and other places were Nebraska, Iowa, and Texas. But many interesting Czech personalities got into Montana as well. And we can see the early Czech businessman, Mr. Horsky, who created a kind of a small empire with his family in 1870s in Montana. That means we had a couple of thousands of Czechs which were working on various places in Montana. They also became even mayors of local cities. We have a mayor of Great Falls whose name was Albert Fousek, who was of course Czech. And we had a plenty of rich businessmen and people who were part of the Montana development, and also miners. That means when you go to Granite Mountain Speculator Mine Memorial, you will see also Czech flag, because they were the Czech miners who died there. And there is even one original Czech city in Montana. It's named Kolín. Kolín is a city not far from Prague, not a big one, but there is a Kolín in Montana. Unfortunately, I must say it's a deserted city these days, but it used to be a thriving Czech city 100 years ago. This is unfortunately Kolín today, but maybe one day it will once more recreate itself.
Well, Ambassador, we hope that one day you will come and visit us here in Montana to share with us, the stories from that book, your own stories and connections with the United States and the Western United States particularly. Consider that an open invitation. I'd like to very quickly wrap up by thanking our very generous sponsors at Bridger Aerospace and the City of Bozeman, and of course our programmatic partners at Gallatin College, the Montana Photonics Industry Alliance, the Department of Commerce here in Montana, and Inspired Classroom. Now, Ambassador Olsha's event concludes our 4-event series for EconoQuest on the virtual side of things. If you missed any of those, I would encourage you to please check out our YouTube channel where you can see these extraordinary events. You can learn all about Montana's economy and its connection with the global economy. And to those students who will be joining us in Bozeman next Monday and Tuesday, wishing you all very safe travels and looking forward to seeing you then. Ambassador Olsha, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, and see you one day in person in Montana.
Very good. Until then, bye-bye.